Team Ready Set Coteach here. I'm Allison.
I'm Ashley.
And I'm John.
All right, so today we thought we would talk a little bit about co-assessment. So we wrote a blog back probably in April about co-assessment. It says part 1, and John just pointed out, hey guys, that says part 1. So what's part 2?
We got to do part 2 at some point. So we're going to do it today.
Yeah, so we're going to do a vlog really quickly just on co-assessment. And before we get started, we just want to talk a little bit about the approaches that we have in that blog, just to give a little background information. So co-assessment is obviously one of the most important parts of the co-teaching cycle. If you hear our little friend back there, it's Ashley's son and my bestie.
Yeah.
So we want to talk about those. So we came up with 3 of them. So there's 3. The first one is one monitor, one assess. So one monitor, one assess is exactly what it sounds like. One co-teacher would be giving the assessment, and the other one would be walking around, monitoring, helping students with any questions, things like that. We don't really use that one very often.
No.
I think we probably use it just for spelling tests, or like Letterland spelling tests.
Yeah.
Which I think is also because we teach younger grades.
Right.
And so we don't give a lot of whole group assessments.
No.
Right. A lot of times what we'll do is actually the next approach is the one teach, one assess, where one teacher is assessing a smaller group of kids while the other co-teacher is teaching the rest of the class at that time.
Yeah, and that one we use a lot. So anytime we need to get done any of those, so I'm sure you all understand, we feel like we're constantly assessing. And so a lot of times with little assessments, like if we want to do a quick phonics assessment on a child, or we want to do a quick, let's check their comprehension on this. A lot of times in John and I's room, I will do that assessment with them while John continues to teach, whether that's whole group or whether that's during small group time and he has a small group at his table and I'm assessing at mine. We tend to share that load that way. And the last one is divide and assess. So that one is probably, since we teach the younger kids, that's probably the most popular. So what'll happen is, for example, if we're giving a whole group test from our curriculum, which we use EL curriculum, a lot of times, for example, Ashley might have the bigger group of students and she's giving that whole group, and then I take a group of students with me, a smaller group who might need a little bit more support or needs read aloud or has some sort of accommodation. We do that as well. He really badly wants to be in our video.
Yes, he does.
Really badly. Okay, so
It allows you to give the scaffolds and supports that some of your students may need while the rest of the class is able to then focus. And yeah, you're taking advantage of having 2 adults in the classroom.
Well, and I also like the smaller setting for assessments just because you get more information, because you can see kind of what the kid's brain is doing while they're sitting at your table.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Doing
Absolutely.
It, so.
And sometimes you do have the student who may not technically need an accommodation, but you know they're going to be more successful with you if they look up, they see you, and you point down to the paper and say, hey, get back to work. You know they're going to be more successful. So take advantage of that.
yeah. So those are just the 3 we came up with. There's obviously probably a million ways that you co-assess, but the 3 that we use are one monitor, one assess, one teach, one assess, and divide and assess.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what we also want to talk about is kind of how we collect the data once we give our assessments. For Allison and I, sorry guys. For Allison and I, one of the best things that we've done is just using file folders. So inside of a child's file folder is literally every assessment that we give. And then some like work if we want to just like look at how students are progressing throughout the module or the unit. And Allison knows exactly where those are located in my classroom, so she can access them at any time.
Yep, even if Ashley's not in there, if I'm like, I wanted to see about this or I wanted to see about that, I can just go in there and go through it, and I know exactly where everything is.
I put everything in there, so even things that Allison's not in the classroom for, so that she can still see like how they're progressing with the Letterland tests, or even sometimes in math if she wants to think about their LAP plan or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So that solution doesn't work well for me. In the past, we've used the one teach, one assess, or style before for Allison to give separate language assessments, and she's always come back and given me the data right away, so that way I have it. that data I would take and I would set on my desk, and it would sit on my desk, and it would sit on my desk, and it would get lost on my desk, and my desk is a mess.
I was like, hey, where's that assessment you gave? And I was like, I put it on your desk. And he's like,
Yeah. So I am much more organized in the digital space. I love it. I use Google Drive. And I love it because just now here, I've been able to pull up my students' data right here on my phone. Everything's labeled, everything is color-coded, and it's there. You organize it once and it stays there. I can go back through and access my data for years and years and years, and because of smart technology, I have it with me at all times. And so it's great when you're in a meeting with a principal or you're having a conversation with a coach. Oh, wait, hang on, and you'll just pull it up in 30 seconds. That's what works well for me.
And as the co-teacher who's coming in, it's really important to know who your co-teacher is and what works for them, right? Because what works for Ashley may not be the same thing that works for John. And so as their co-teacher, that's something we sit down and talk about. Like John, after our first year co-teaching, was straight up like, this does not work for me. Paper doesn't work. I lose it. And so from now on, we are using Google spreadsheets, and it's great because if I get an assessment, I can plug it into Google and I can say, hey, John, it's in Google. Go check out the results from today or whatever. We can access it together and analyze it.
And it's very easy to also hyperlink into our agendas from when we're meeting and things like that.
And some people might be both. Like we also have a data binder that we use, which is all of our stuff that's online, just printed and put into the spreadsheet or into a data binder. You can keep anecdotal notes in there. We like to keep all of our diagnostic assessments, all of our the past assessments and
phonics,
anything that we give. We like to just keep it in the binder, and as opposed to our folder that we use.
And it's great to use a binder because when you're giving the assessment, you can just have that binder open on the table next to you and just be jotting down the notes while you're doing
Absolutely.
it. You'll see me in my classroom with a laptop open. I'm just doing the same thing, just digitally. It's whatever works best for you.
Yeah,
and just like Allison said, if one solution works better for your co-teacher, adapt, compromise, everything like that. But the most important thing about collecting all this data is just not to have the data. It's to sit down and actually have conversations about that data.
He's the star.
Yes, he is.
Say
yes,
hi. Say hi. Oh my gosh. You cutie.
So we make it a priority to have those data talks about our students. We tend to do those informally at times, but after a big assessment, we will sit down. Allison and I will sit down with the spreadsheet together and look at it more formally during our PLT times with my grade level, and also usually individually together in our co-planning times as well.
And it's so much easier when we can plug things in and we know where they go. Look at them individually, think of our own things we want to talk about, and then when we meet together, hey, did you look at that data? You did? Great. I saw this. What did you notice?
Right. And you can then talk about next steps. Well, if you're grouping students, well, here are the groups then that I...
He's doing what you're doing.
So here are the groups that I come up with based on the data. Here, take a look at it, and what do you think?
Yes, exactly. So basically, co-assessment can be, I think, a lot of times, he really wants to be the star of this show, y'all.
Yes,
this is Levi.
Say
okay?
hi.
This is Ashley's son, Levi. Levi, tell them how old you are.
How old are you,
How old are you?
Oh,
I'm one.
Say, I'm one. Tell them. Say one.
One.
Two.
Not two.
Now he's
One.
All right.
So co-assessment can be really scary because I think people think like, oh, how can two teachers be giving an assessment at the same time and blah, blah, blah. Well, the idea is not necessarily that you're doing it together at all times, but that you are both knowing what is being assessed, how it's being assessed, and what the results are, and then what you're going to do with those results, right? So those are the most important things. And you can use any co-assessment approach, come up with your own, or anything. Just make sure that you're both involved in the whole co-assessment process. And we have on the part 1 vlog, we have the co-assessment cycle. And so that might be something you want to look at with your co-teacher. And then Andrea Hunningsfeld and Maria Dove have a great 5-step protocol for co-assessment, which is also in our part 1 blog, that we definitely recommend checking out if you need a step-by-step for how to start co-assessing.
Yeah, we absolutely 100% recommend it. It's really it's not true co-teaching if you're not co-assessing together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's definitely a great way to take your co-teaching to the next level.
Yeah.
If you've kind of just started getting your feet wet.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. That's all we have for you today. Levi, do you want to come say bye? Come here. No, you gotta come over here so we can see you. Come here. Hop up on mommy's lap. Say bye.